This is the Morning Drive Podcast from Double T 97.3, getting you ready for today's sports day.
3 of the first 4 games have been at home, so at some point in time you're going to have to venture outside the 806, so that'll start this week.
While having a little fun along the way.
Always good if you can blame it on somebody else, right?
Yeah, sure.
Especially some media guy.
Sure. Right, some media guy.
Catch the show live weekday mornings from 6 to 9 on Lubbock Sports Station, Double T 97.3.
This morning on the Morning Drive. You ever think about being an instructor of anything?
I don't think I'd be very good.
Well, you're kind of an instructor of us. You're our instructor.
Oh, okay.
You're our leader. You're our fearless leader.
Nobody really listens, though.
Oh.
I don't command the kind of respect that a Top Gun does.
Sure you do. You get it.
Command or demand.
Command or demand.
I should have probably apologized to our podcast audience that will be listening to this when they download it on their respective podcast sites, because copyright won't let me have fun. That's really what it comes down to, which is why we encourage you to listen to the Morning Drive,
right,
Monday through Friday,
right
from
here,
6 o'clock until
live
9
and in
o'clock
color.
every day.
We're here every day, right?
You get to hear all this if you were listening to the radio. So I apologize to the podcast listeners.
All right, we will have Red Raider basketball on the air for you in 6 hours. So it'll be a 12:30 broadcast, which is 8:30 Hawaiian time in the morning. So it's an early wake-up call for those fellas. It's 2:33 in the morning, right? Which I guess gives you beach time. I don't know. I was thinking about that yesterday going.
Yeah, I can imagine that Coach Adams doesn't want to spend too much time on the beach in the sun when they're playing a game the next day.
Well, I mean, you're gonna be done.
I'm sure they'll spend some, but
yeah.
Just not a long period of time.
You get a little bit. We get this on the 8th Morning Center chat line. Jamie Lent, instructor of sarcasm. I don't know if you're as sarcastic as others.
Yeah, especially with Chuck, I don't think I'm sarcastic. I think I just come pretty straightforward with my thoughts, right?
You do. Yeah, you do. Hey, I saw this yesterday, and I think it bears some note. I find it interesting, and so I'm going to share it with you. And then I think when this was announced and when this person found out, to me is even more interesting. It makes it even sound more real. So her name is Olivia Pichardo. She is a utility player and walk-on at Brown University. It was announced yesterday by the school that she has become the first woman to make an active NCAA Division I baseball varsity team.
Oh, cool.
Okay. She was a pitcher and outfielder for the U.S. baseball women's national team this past summer, played varsity baseball in Queens, New York, and also played club baseball in New York as well. The Brown baseball coach, Grant Achilles, said he was impressed by her athleticism during her initial tryout and in subsequent practices. He is in his 9th season as the coach. He called her the most complete walk-on tryout I have seen from a player since becoming a head coach. Okay?
Cool.
So she has earned this spot, one of 31 players to make the roster for the upcoming spring season. Now, I don't know how many they would get down to, if it's 28 or 25 or, then there's a travel squad as well that's limited to.
Yeah, I don't know if Brown's the same as it is in the Big 12, but I think in the Big 12 you're allowed 35. So.
Okay, on the active roster?
Yeah, you can't travel with all of them but for a Big 12 series. But
here's the thing that I found interesting about this that made me feel like, okay, this is not just a publicity stunt by the school or her or the coach. She found out she made the roster during a team meeting on October 4th. So it sounds like this is kind of a normal routine for them of when they would announce who's on the squad for the spring, as opposed to she finds out October 4th and October 5th they're putting out a press release on it.
Right.
So good for her. Good for her.
No doubt.
Just thought I just found that interesting when I saw that last night. All right, Joey McGuire met with the media yesterday. We'll get some of his thoughts on his football team and what he has to say. He did say that Malik Dunlap and Ty Buchanan will be back this week to play. He said also that it's possible that Mason Tharp would be back, although was not totally sure about that. Both of those guys suffered injuries really early in the week. Kind of sounds like both of them on Tuesday. He did not want to go into the injury for Malik Dunlap. I think more out of just safety for Malik because he didn't want somebody coming after him. So I don't know if it's head, shoulder, knees, or toes. Okay. Mm-hmm. And didn't give any indication of that. So I certainly respect that. He did say that Thanksgiving was one of his favorite holidays. And he did say that with regard to, the students, he encouraged them all to come back. And basically he said what we all know, that by Saturday night, you'll be tired of your parents and ready to come back. So come on back.
There's times that Joey McGuire says something that I'm like, okay, whatever. And then there's times that he says something I'm like, that man's speaking the truth right there.
There's a lot of truth right there.
Fish, friends, family go bad after 3 days.
He did look around his house the other day and he told his wife that, hey, Christmas is out. It's an insult to Thanksgiving. Felt like they were showing some disrespect to Thanksgiving at his house. Getting ahead of the game a little bit. So anyway, so we'll get some thoughts from him on his team, and he said that he's been really pleased with how his defense has played, and that they're trying to change the culture of how the defense is looked at here, and they started that way back in the spring, and then continued in the fall. In fact, he said, and this was a little inside baseball for all of us, and I don't know how many buses they take to the airport or how many buses they take when they're just going to practice. Even when they're here, they spend the night in the hotel. But he said bus one has been designated as the defense, not the offense. And he said he wanted to be a complete team. And he said even the bus driver was shocked when bus one wasn't the offense. So he said he said the defense has played with a little chip on their shoulder since Tyree Wilson hasn't been playing. And not that anybody thought that they couldn't win without them, but just trying to step up to play and fill the gap that he leaves with him not playing.
Well, they definitely played well without Tyree this week. That's for certain.
Yeah. So anyway, a couple things there from Coach McGuire from yesterday. Tyler Shuck will start at quarterback. That's no surprise. And now you have a situation where all three guys have started 4 games. Shuck, Donovan Smith, and Baron Morton. And Baron Morton is only available if they absolutely need him. So he's still trying to recover and get completely healthy from his foot injury.
You're listening to the Morning Drive podcast from Lubbock Sports Station, Double T 97.3, recapping the night that was in the world of sports.
A little bit later on tonight, we'll have the Astros and the Diamondbacks. That'll be at 8. And then the Rangers playing at Seattle tonight.
And also bringing some humor to your day.
Was it pretty big?
Yeah. I mean,
impressive?
Yeah.
Was it fascinating?
I thought it was fascinating. It kind of smelled, but I mean.
Hear the show live weekday mornings at 6 on Double T 97.3 or on the Double T 97.3 mobile app.
11/22/22. Here's Jeff McGuire.
1945 is where we will start today because Cleveland Rams end Jim Benton gains 303 yards in a 28-21 win over the Detroit Lions. It's an NFL single-game rushing record that would stand for over 40 years.
Wow.
1957, Mickey Mantle wins the AL MVP for the second time. 1961, Frank Robinson of the Cincinnati Reds is selected as the NL MVP. 1972, in Pittsburgh, the Penguins set an NHL record for scoring the fastest 5 goals in 2 minutes and 7 seconds in a 10-4 win over the St. Louis Blues.
Gosh.
1987, the 37th Winston Cup goes to Dale Earnhardt Sr. 1989, Major League Baseball center fielder Kirby Puckett signs a record $3 million per year contract with the Minnesota Twins.
A record at the time. Man, how quickly that's changed over the last 30 years.
I mean, it's not quite the minimum, but, that one's getting close.
No question. Yeah, that's a great point.
And in 1996, O.J. Simpson takes the stand as a hostile witness in the wrongful death suit filed against him, saying it is, quote, absolutely not true, end quote. But if I did it, here's how I would do it, and here's the book to buy. It is National Cranberry Relish Day.
I'm out on the cranberry relish. Just like the cranberry sauce coming out of the can. That's it.
Okay, I'm out on cranberry and relish.
And Happy National Cashew Day.
I'm out on the cashew.
Big fan of the cashews.
I'll eat some cashews.
Happy birthday to former baseball Red Raider, Reed Redmond. You give me a look.
Keep talking.
Happy birthdays to Scarlett Johansson, who's 38. Mark Ruffalo is 55. Jamie Lee Curtis, 64. Billie Jean King, 79. And Joe Nathan is 48.
Who is Joe Nathan?
Former Rangers closer.
Ranger closer.
Okay.
Yeah. Really his best years were with the Twins.
Oh, by far.
Also pitched for the Giants.
And while everyone will probably expect me on today to go to Dallas, we're not going to go there instead. We're going to go a couple other places because in 1718, the pirate Blackbeard was killed off of North Carolina.
Oh.
In 72, the first B-52 was shot down over North Vietnam. In 1988, on this day, the stealth bomber was unveiled. And in 1990, Margaret Thatcher resigns as prime minister in Britain. Of course, there's another one, but, that's for another day in this day in sports history.
All right, 6:50 this morning here on Lubbock Sports Station, Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com. Take your thoughts, comments on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Go to Double T 97.3 mobile app. On that, presented by Happy State Bank. We get this from a comment that I made earlier this morning with regard to the defense. Tap the brakes on the defensive effort against a pathetic Iowa State offense. Okay, you can say tap the brakes. I mean, I get it. But still, you had 2 goal line stands that, you don't make either one of those, you lose the football game, and we're trying to figure out how to get bowl eligible. So I'm not here to suggest that they're, this defensive giant, but they have played substantially better than what we have been accustomed to here. And I think that's the point that I'm trying to make, and I think that's part of the point that Coach McGuire was trying to make yesterday.
Plain and simple, you won the game because of your defense on Saturday, right? It wasn't because of anything your offense was doing.
No doubt.
The interesting part is you got outgained by 180 yards in the contest. They were able to move the ball up and down the field between the 20s, but then struggled inside the 20 and missed field goals, and then had the goal line stands. The one thing that I would say is that, as I said on the chat line, I don't think Iowa State's offense is good. I think it's pretty bad. But remember, they did score 24 versus Baylor, 21 versus Texas, and they 31 versus West Virginia. And your defense did a better job making plays than those defenses did. So I think somewhat the point is fair, and that Iowa State's offense is bad. But it's also that you did a better job against some of those better teams in the Big 12 Conference, like Baylor and Texas, that they did against them. So, and that was on their home turf. So I think something needs to be said for that.
Yeah. At any rate, like I said, I mean, I know it's they weren't just this offensive machine that you stopped, but still the point is that you stopped them when you needed to, and then that's been something that. In years past, in certain circumstances, that you haven't been able to do.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for that, I tip my hat. On Saturday, and they have not announced a specific number yet or a list yet, because it'll be senior day for Texas Tech, with it being the last game of the season, and they expect 20 plus members of its senior class to be honored. So part of this is maybe they don't know specifically who is potentially going to come back. There are a number of guys that could come back and some guys that could participate. Coach McGuire did say that he expects Dadrian Taylor Demerson to be back next year, and Reggie Pearson to be back next year.
Good news.
He encourages them to come back. He also encourages them, if they're thinking about, leaving, to not miss the opportunity for a senior night, even if it's potentially a second time, or it could be a second time. Apparently, some of the players have said, "Hey, we're kind of used to that, so it is what it is."
A second time?
Well, I mean, because there's some guys that could participate knowing that they're going to come back and then going through it again next year.
Well, if they're knowing they're going to come back, why would they participate this year?
Well, it's if there's doubt in their mind that they're going to come back.
If there's doubt, so they don't know.
Yeah. So if you think you're not going to come back, go ahead, but you still could go ahead and go through it. And if you go through it again a second time, it's okay next year. He also said that he would never ask a player, and he said he's told them this from the beginning, to come back when they should have come out and gone to the NFL. So he's made that pledge to them as well.
You're tuned in to the Morning Drive podcast from Double T 97.3, recapping the night that was in the world of sports.
That's not to say that they don't respect the run game that you have, but you're talking about one quarterback leading the conference in passing so far this year. And remember, he didn't start the first game.
All right.
Still played a lot, though.
And also bringing some humor to your day.
I just don't want to disappoint you. As much as I disappoint you, I don't want to disappoint you in some things that you expect from me.
Hear the show live weekday mornings at 6 on Double T 97.3 or on the Double T 97.3 mobile app.
It's the day before Thanksgiving. Wednesday night is Thanksgiving Eve is one of my favorite nights of the year. I think I've told you that many, many times.
Is that because it's the Wednesday, the day that all the work has to get done?
No. I just, I don't know, for whatever reason, I just, the smells of the house, and just never really had a whole lot going on that night. And just kind of, you can ease your way into Thanksgiving and kind of get ready for the day the next day. And so I've always liked that night, the night before Thanksgiving.
It's a good one.
Yeah. So look forward to plenty of football on Thursday. We'll have games for you all day long. Begins with the Bills and the Lions from Detroit. Bills have been there since last Saturday. And with the snowstorm, man, they had to battle just to get out of their homes, just to get to the airport, which had been closed because of all the snow. But and this comes as no surprise to me, or probably should not to anybody, but the Bills fans and the Bills Mafia kind of bounding together to help the Bills players get out of their neighborhoods, shoveling them out and making sure that they got in their cars and things like that. And I'm not saying that wouldn't necessarily happen anywhere, but I just kind of feel like with that city and that fan base, that again comes as no surprise.
They are definitely an interesting crew.
Yes. We'll have the Cowboys.
Been through what they've been through. You're clearly not mentally stable all the time.
Cowboys and the Giants, that should be a delicious 3:25 matchup. So if you're planning your dinner, plan it accordingly. And then Patriots and the Vikings will play Thursday night from Minneapolis. Somebody says this: if you worked in grocery, it wouldn't be your favorite, Chuck. No, I know. I understand that. The folks that work at the grocery stores, I mean, that's a hellacious day, I would imagine. That's the day, generally speaking, the Wednesday before Thanksgiving is the day that, my wife gets everything handled before then, because she would tell you that basically you see a lot of men that are going to the grocery store to get the one or two or three item things that need to be gotten. There's a lot of staring at aisles and things like that, just trying to figure out where everything is. Okay. Let's see. Bullfighter. Millionaires can't get out of their own houses, but the average Joes can. What's up with that? Oh, that's a little harsh, Bullfighter. All right, let's get some thoughts from Joey McGuire. He spoke to the media yesterday. We've talked a little bit about the defense from Iowa State game on Saturday, but he talked specifically about the defensive buy-in versus Iowa State last Saturday.
I think the buy-in of historically Texas Tech has been so great on offense, and that it's almost like a afterthought, like that I'll just tell you, the bus driver week 1 was shocked that bus 1 was not offense. Bus 1 is defense. And so just that entire mindset of we want to be a complete team, but we want to be led and have a demeanor of playing really good defense here. And so I think they're buying into that. We talk about it all the time. I think some of those guys actually had a chip on their shoulder that Tyree wasn't going to play. And not in a bad way, because, man, you're talking about a group of guys that love each other, but also of like, hey, I know I've got to step up and I've got to play at a high level. And so I think that had a lot to do with it.
It's Coach Joey McGuire. Tim DeRuyter is the defensive coordinator for this Texas Tech team. Man, he has done a fantastic job. You want to do anything and everything you can to keep this guy around as long as you can.
I feel like the defense was heading in the right direction with Coach Wells and company, and they had done a good job through the portal of improving the talent that you had on the defensive side of the ball. But I definitely feel like Coach DeRuyter is taking it to a different level. And obviously the emergence of your big man on the defensive line and Tyree Wilson was a huge part of that. But, yeah, it just feels like the arrow was pointing in the right direction.
Absolutely.
And Coach DeRuyter has maybe lifted the arrow and pointed it higher than you were projecting before.
He realized the arrow was going in the right direction. He didn't try to turn the direction of the arrow.
Yeah, but instead of making it like a steady climb, he made it like
a rocket ship,
more uphill one.
Here is Coach DeRuyter on the 4th down stops near the goal line against Iowa State.
Well, you call certain calls that we've practiced a bunch. Down there, they're either going to run the ball inside. If they think you're pinching, maybe you'll see outside runs, or you're going to see some type of play action. And we have a few different calls that give us an advantage. And you've got to kind of not guess with it, but play the percentages of what you think. And I thought our guys executed really, really well in those circumstances and refused to stay blocked. On the play action, I thought, Mudd and JP did a great job of creating edge pressure, making the quarterback step up, and Tony did a great job of getting off his block and finishing on the quarterback. On the run, I think they misblocked it, but JP had a great get off and beat the block and got up the field to make the play on the power run that was supposed to go into the boundary. We practice those things all the time, and so to see our guys go into the situation and execute, because you don't always practice goal line. You practice it every week, not knowing if you're even have a situation to call it. But our guys did it, and we had some new guys in there. Miles Cole had to go in for Tyree being out, and he did a really nice job as well.
You can tell that Coach Patterson, I think, Coach DeRuyter's a pretty, I would say, somewhat emotional guy. I've not seen him practice per se. But, he's always pounding the table when he's talking to us. So I can only imagine what he's doing when he's talking to his kids.
Yeah.
Because he gets a little fired up.
Either that or he's a hand talker.
Yeah, I think he's a hand talker too.
Yeah.
Yes. He's a hand talker. But I think they have. I think they've stepped up and done what they've needed to do. By the way, as far as Tyree Wilson is concerned, Coach McGuire really campaigning for him to be not only the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year, but a consensus All-American. And so really...
I'd love to see it.
I would too. And, it's disappointing that he's not going to get to finish out, but certainly understand why he did what he did. Tim DeRuyter talking about Tyree Wilson's impact. He said the stat line is evident. He said, but more than just the statistics that he has put up, he said he has practiced hard and that he has set the standard here. In fact, he called Tyree Wilson setting the gold standard. Okay, so anyway, they're obviously going to miss him, and but he's going to be the type of player that they're wanting to recruit, and then also hopeful to have them play the way that he didn't, but also practice the way that he did as well. 7:23 this morning here on the Morning Drive. Both Coach McGuire and Coach DeRuyter really praising Adrian Fry yesterday. Coach McGuire going as far as saying They told the team and made it a point to tell the team on Sunday that the way that Fry played and how he had an impact on the game, that didn't feel like they would win the game without Adrian Fry, and really kind of lauded his attitude for a guy that got injured, lost his job, but never complained, and then when his number was called, performed. So was very appreciative of how Adrian Fry has handled himself this season since he got injured, and then basically couldn't get back into the starting lineup because of the play that was being done in front of him. But yet, when needed to, stepped up and made huge plays for the Red Raiders.
Your morning blend of sports.
K-State is coming off a big win over Oklahoma. Of course, the Red Raiders off their 37-34 overtime win over number 22 Texas.
And humor.
Sure to tell them that. You suggested that. And, of course, that got a big laugh.
This is the Morning Drive Podcast from Double T 97.3. Catch the show live weekdays from 6 to 9 on Double T 97.3 FM or on the Double T 97.3 mobile app.
What's in your brain that you would like us to answer?
All right, my question for you today goes to Red Raider men's basketball.
Okay.
We're 4 games into the season. You picked up your first loss yesterday, so you're 3-1. What concerns you? You got one thing. What concerns you the most about this Red Raider team?
Let's see. I think it's still going to be offensive production. Shot 43.5% from the field yesterday, 23 of 62, 6 of 16 from beyond the arc, but scored just 65 points, only got to the free throw line 7 times. You were 5 of 7. So I'm just going to say, do you have a prolific scorer that can help you on those nights where you really need a big bang?
Okay.
Jeff?
Specifically from behind the arc is where I would go. College basketball is very much following the path of the NBA, where you need 3-point shooters. And you've been better, but I don't, as you've seen, there are times that when the other team's just hitting lights out, there's nothing you can do about it. And you haven't had that type of experience from behind the arc in quite a while.
25 for 69 so far this year, shooting at a 36% clip from beyond the arc. You'd love that number to be up closer to 40 or at 40.
But you're better. I mean, you've improved in that from a few seasons ago where it felt like you were shooting 12%.
Mm-hmm. You know, I'm going to go with depth inside. I continue to feel like Daniel Baccio is so incredibly important to this team, but you just don't have a lot of depth behind him. Yesterday we saw Robert Jennings get into the game, and he got an offensive rebound and had a lay-in. So he gave you a little bit of something off the bench, but he didn't play many minutes in yesterday's game. It just feels like Coach Adams has decided, at times he's going to go small. He's going to put KJ Allen in there, and I just don't know if that works against quality teams, if you're playing so much smaller. And I know Kevin O'Banner can play inside and out, and he does a good job there, but I do feel like – I remember last year being worried about – or maybe it was the year before, being worried about your depth in the interior. And then as we got into Big 12 play, it was like, well, nobody else has a lot of bigs either. It's kind of maybe just the way college basketball is. But I definitely feel like you could have used a little bit more depth. And that maybe speaks to the fact that you've played 3 teams this year in the non-conference that weren't great basketball teams. I'm not saying they were terrible, but you played 3, and you're still only a +3 in rebounding at this point of the season. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. I have loved what we have seen from Baccio so far, but there's going to be games where you're going to need somebody else to contribute inside and be able to slow down a decent big man, and it's not going to be Baccio. Who's going to be that guy?
Yeah, I mean, and just in listening to the game yesterday and listening to Jeff Haxton point out that, Baccio, I mean, he got winded. He
got injured twice.
Yeah, and he got knocked down the one time that I heard. But I mean, he took himself out of the game at one point in time. He played played 24 minutes, but that speaks to what you were just talking about, having, AMAC or somebody.
Yeah. And AMAC's obviously the big question. We just don't know when he's coming back.
Yeah. No, is it going to be conference? Is it going to be before the end of, the non-con? But, here we are right at Thanksgiving. Well,
Jay Billis said 3 weeks yesterday. He seemed pretty confident in it. And, a lot of times
coming back in 3 weeks?
Yeah. A lot of times coaches tend to tell the national media more than they tell the local media.
Okay.
And so Jay Billis was very matter-of-fact with it. Said that he'll be back not two, I think he said not two, but maybe the week after that. Seemed very confident in that.
Okay. Well, we hope that he's right.
That's right.
Because the sooner that you can get him back, the better off that you will be.
Man, he'd be a huge asset.
Yeah.
Huge asset.
Somebody had asked if he's out for the season, Bardaz Amac. No, he's not. At least that's our understanding. At least the thought. But, man, you never know with feet, right?
Yeah, no, that's fair, especially with big men. Yeah, I don't think there ever was rumors of it being that long. I think for the most part, initially, I thought it was that he would be back before conference play started, and then there was maybe a little bit longer than that, but it seems like that's not the case.
This person says 3-point shooter, ? Kevin O'Banner needs to be the O'Banner from last year and bring it. The new kids will follow him.
Yeah, so far for him, just 3 for 10 from behind the arc. Pop Isaacs has been your best 3-point shooter. He's been really good.
Chuck, your prolific scorer, is now playing for Illinois. That's unfortunate. I mean, it's just
prolific shooter.
Yeah, but I wouldn't.
He's not a prolific shooter.
I wouldn't call him a prolific shooter. No, I'm just reading what the text said.
I wouldn't call him a prolific scorer. Mm-mm. Thought he had the potential to be that way, but didn't turn out to be that way.
And unfortunately, look, I mean, he didn't want to be here, so he left. So there you go. After yesterday's game, Tech men's basketball is now 1-4 all-time versus Creighton. How does that sit with you guys? I really hadn't given very much consideration to that. I mean, there's one that's recent history that's still, and listening to Choice Woodman yesterday on the end of the bench that still sticks in his craw. And then there's a couple that from a long time ago that just, okay, well, whatever.
It's one of those really good mid-major basketball programs.
Yeah. They've just been, they have been, like you said, very good.
I would prefer the Red Raiders be 5-0 against them, though.
Sure, absolutely.
I'm just going to be honest.
Right. I mean, how does it sit with me? Well, I don't like it, but I mean.
But it's not keeping me up at night either.
It's not keeping me up at night.
I'd rather lose to them than TCU.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair. Anyway, let's see. 7:38 this morning here on the Morning Drive. Hey, we got some tickets for Texas Tech and Oklahoma. These are reserve seats, as a matter of fact. So if you'll be the first caller, if you can use 4, we'll give you 4. If you only need 2, we'll give you 2. So give us a call right now at 806-771-0973. That's 806-771-0973. The first person to get to Jeff will win 4 tickets. And you can go watch the Red Raiders play on Saturday evening. It's a 6:30 broadcast. We will have it for you, or 6:30 kickoff, I should say. We will have it for you beginning with Optimum Game Day Live, presented by United Supermarkets at 7. And the kick is at 6:30 from inside Jones Stadium as opposed to outside. They're going to play inside the stadium, Jamie.
It's good.
On the floor of the turf there at Jones Stadium. So look forward to that final game of the year. 7 home games this year. And you have a chance to win 6 for the first time in quite some time and be above 500 in the Big 12 since 2009. Your first Saturday, the day after Thanksgiving, Saturday after Thanksgiving since 2008. So I need to have a big crowd on Saturday.
Getting your sports day started the right way. This is the Morning Drive Podcast from Double T 97.3, breaking down the biggest games.
If Texas Tech does not win the Big 12 football conference, who are you rooting for to win the conference if Tech does not win it this year?
Well, busting some chops along the way.
I hold back on sending you stuff. I mean, I'm very, very, very judicious.
We spend 3 hours a day, 5 days a week together. Why would we need to communicate during the weekends? Save it for the show.
We do. We save it for the show.
Tune into the Morning Drive live weekdays from 6 to 9 on Lubbock Sports Station, Double T 97.3.
8:01 this morning here on the morning drive. You went into a lot of effort this morning, Mr. McGuire.
It's not really effort when it's something you enjoy doing that needs to be done that others will enjoy as well.
Okay.
Notice no one's complaining about it. They're all sitting back and smiling and realizing that all of these are great quotes from the movie that was quoted yesterday and said, is that from a video game?
Yeah. I feel like the horse is dead on that deal, but
Oh, you haven't even gotten to this hour, and you're only going to be here for part of it, which is a little disappointing. This entire hour is the flyby hour.
oh, okay.
The number of times the flyby is mentioned from the movie.
Sounds like a gross misuse of resources by you yesterday.
If we're all entertained, it's not a gross misuse of resources. We are here to entertain.
Well, as we're using his skill set for the forces of good and not evil.
Yeah, right. It's 8:03 this morning on the Morning Drive. Good morning. We come to you from the First United Bank studio in downtown Lubbock, all part of the Double T 97.3 compound. As we look forward to hearing from you on the Yates Flooring Center chat line, benchmark hotline as well. It is open at 806-771-0973. 8:15, I'll give away some more tickets, or we'll give away some more tickets for Texas Tech and Oklahoma on Saturday night. It's a 6:30 kickoff, and the weather is supposed to be very accommodating on Saturday. I think it's in the high 60s.
Awesome.
And so I think the low is about 47, what I've seen. So should be a beautiful evening for some college football.
Yeah, not too bad at all.
So
It'd be nice.
Nick says this, great job, Jeff, on the tunes. Love the 80s. Love Top Gun. Okay. A couple of you have pointed out on the Yates Flooring Center chat line about the Lane Kiffin, quote, breaking news by our former colleague, John Sokoloff. But we'll see. We'll see if that's true or not. He's reporting that Lane Kiffin is going to leave Ole Miss and go to Auburn. And Lane Kiffin has twice responded to him via the tweet, saying that it was news to him, and then mocking John Sokoloff's Twitter report with one about John Sokoloff, about him leaving his current employer for another television station.
I mean, if Lane Kiffin is going to do that, then surely he's not going to Auburn, right?
Mm-hmm.
That would make the most sense to me, but then again, there's just so many things that happen in the world today that I would have never thought I would have seen 5 years ago. So maybe this is one.
Several of you. Now I look at the weather forecast. It has changed dramatically. Now it's a high of 49 and a low of 35.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I know. So that's why I don't do the weather.
Chuck Heinz jinx.
I know. It's like now it's like this. The Yates Flooring Center chat line is just blowing up on the weather forecast. Apparently, everybody saw the weather last night, but me. I gotta be honest with you. I fell asleep pretty early yesterday.
So you're gonna have to pull out the turtleneck.
Yeah, probably will. Yeah, I probably will.
Not the visor though. You don't want a half a hat for something like that.
Yeah, I might wear.
Go with a skull cap.
No, I had a stocking cap on. I had a stocking cap on for the last home game between Texas Tech and KU. I had have a nice Chiefs stocking cap that I've had for a number of years. So it worked out well for me.
Mm-hmm. It's good.
Weather now has changed. Possible high of 48. Possible snow in the morning. Ugh. Wow. Wouldn't mind having a little snow, but I mean that'll kind of make it for a chilly Optimum Game Day Live, right?
Some of us are going to be up very early on Saturday.
Yeah, right. No, I understand. Eric on Wheels had Lane Kiffin going to Nebraska. It'll be interesting to see who gets that job. I just don't think of the jobs of the big Power 5 jobs that are available right now, like Auburn and Georgia Tech is open right now, right? And Nebraska. And it's just the Nebraska job is not the Nebraska job, and it hasn't been for quite some time. Not when you compare it to some of the SEC schools and even some of the other Big Ten schools.
Yeah, but I'll take it over Georgia Tech.
Yeah, it would be over Georgia Tech. Yeah, I was just trying to think out loud of the Georgia of Power 5 schools that were Colorado's open as well.
The money that they're making in the Big Ten, I think it's absolutely a job to take.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's a job to take. It's just can you win there like they used to be able to win there? That's been their problem.
Well, probably not, but like they used to win. But can they be competitive and can they be a good team in the Big Ten that's going to bowl games every year? I mean, I think it's absolutely doable.
Let's see here. Clay is calling me wrong Heinz or run for the hills Chuck. That just doesn't have the same. That doesn't just have the same.
Yeah, and he also said it was going to be nicer. The run for the hills weathermen are the ones that act like, a couple sprinkles and we should shut down the city.
Yeah.
That wasn't Chuck there. He was telling us it was going to be nice.
Well, it's going to be nicer than it was for the KU Texas Tech game. The airport says a high of 55 on Saturday, mostly sunny, no precip. These Debbie Downers will say anything. Chris says this, I see Matt Campbell going to Wisconsin or Nebraska, which is a better fit. I saw last night where the Wisconsin folks were going to keep their current guy, or that's what the thought is. Okay. Bullfighter, looks like you need a different weather app. Well, that's on the list of a long list of things that I probably need. Is a better weather
Great.
app.
Now we know the theme for Monday is going to be all weather.
All the weather
quotes.
All the weather quotes. So yeah, right. I don't know about that.
I can't force Chuck to get the weather right when not every weatherman does. So we can get the movie quote right though.
Yeah. So I don't know about the. A couple people saying that. Couple of 40s. This from the Yates Flooring Center chat line is Chuck bitter you guys move buildings.
Yes.
A little bit.
Yes.
Not even a little.
A little bit.
Is.
Yes.
I'm getting used to it.
Used to does not mean you're less bitter. It just means you're
bitter.
just used to it.
Bitter's a harsh word. I don't know about bitter. It's just certain aspects of the other place that were a little more convenient.
For Chuck.
For me, right.
Yeah.
For me. But, I'm in. We're good.
Are we?
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
Sure, there's a lot of belly aching going on about it.
Well, trying to have a good attitude. I have a good attitude. My big question now is who is going to show up on Thursday, Dallas or New York? They're both going to show up, but it will be the Cowboys that beat the bejesus out of Minnesota or the Giants that lost this past weekend.
Can it be both?
Hopefully, yeah.
Can't it be the Cowboys that beat the Giants earlier in the season?
Could be, yeah. 809.
You've been listening to the Morning Drive podcast from Double T 97.3. For more from Lubbock Sports Station, go to doublet973.com.